Welcome to Charter Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. We're in the nation's capital today, inside the capital actually, and we are joined by Dan Kildee. He is a member of the United States Congress from the great state of Michigan, representing significant portions of the Flint region. And I'd love to talk to you about one of your finest. He's a young man, about 31 years old. His name is Amir Hekmati.
Right.
Tell us about Amir.
Well, Amir grew up in Flint. His parents emigrated to the United States in 1979 from Iran after the Iranian Revolution.
Right.
Grew up in my hometown of Flint. Like
Wow.
me, played high school hockey, just an all-American kid. Served in the United States Marine Corps. And then about 4 years ago, before enrolling in college, he decided to, for the first time, travel to Iran.
And the reason for that was?
There was some family that he'd never met. He had met one grandmother he knew when he was 2 years old, but he wanted to actually meet her as an adult, and he never had done that. So,
and mind you, this is an American-born individual.
Yeah.
Just like you and I, if we met him, he speaks English like we do. He's got the Michigan accent, I'm sure.
He's an American kid.
Does not or did not speak Farsi.
No.
But I understood specialized in Arabic, which is
Right.
probably useful when he was in the military.
Right. And it did help him even after he left the military. He did some translation.
So he got to Iran.
Went to Iran in August of 2011, and after a couple of weeks, disappeared. Family didn't hear anything about him or from him for about 3 months. And they thought he had been abducted. They had no idea what happened, actually.
Right. And there are abductions, and it could have been a paramilitary group.
Right.
A lot of scenarios could have played out.
Right.
But really, the most disappointing scenario is he was abducted by
The Iranian government.
the government.
Right.
The government had imprisoned this young man.
Exactly.
Why?
Well, he originally was, we find out later, was tried in secret for espionage. They had this sense that somehow there were no facts to support it, that he was a spy for the American government.
And let's remember, if I may, he did not sneak into the country.
No, that's right. He went, he was completely transparent in his transaction, went to the Iran interest section, received permission to travel to Iran, disclosed his background, including his military background. So, and he was traveling, under his own name with his own documents. This is not the thing a spy would do.
Right.
And so it was revealed later that fall that he had been tried, convicted of espionage, and sentenced to death.
This is in 2011.
2011.
At this point, he's, let's say, 27.
Exactly.
His whole life before him,
Right.
just because he went to visit his grandmother.
Right.
So what happened at that point? You're about to enter Congress at that point, I guess.
Right.
Probably just got elected.
Right.
And you knew the family, by the way. I mean,
I
they
knew
were
them,
part of the community.
Sure. I mean, I knew of them. I had met them before. His father was a professor at
I had a
Mott
feeling
Community
you were going to
College.
say that, right?
Yeah. Nice guy. In fact, his father's quite ill now, which is a sad thing.
I mean, that makes this even more crushing.
Right.
And so what happened when you entered Congress? Because this has been really a cause for you since entering this august body. I mean, you've been involved in this.
We have. And so we took up the case, and, in fact, for my staff and myself, it went from being, a really important case that we were trying to help them with to something that feels more like a cause. I mean, in many ways, the Hekmati family feels like family to me and my staff.
That's nice. No, that's special.
But he's still in prison.
Right, and that's why we're here today.
Right.
Is we need to continue to call attention to this young American's plight. Again, he's one of ours.
Right.
He's one of our own. He's everyone's son.
Right.
He's everyone's nephew and grandson and uncle and whatever it may be.
Right.
And so what is happening as we speak today?
Well, we continue to press the Iranian government. After his death sentence ultimately was set aside, because even under Iranian law, there were no facts that would support an espionage charge or a death sentence. That was set aside and replaced.
How?
Well, through their appeals process.
Okay.
And of course now he continues to sit in prison. He was ultimately recharged with cooperating with a hostile government, which the conclusion that we drew, and this is only the logic that we can piece together, is that because under Iranian law, a first-generation American of Iranian descent is still an Iranian citizen, and then he served in the military of the United States as a U.S. Marine. So they have, in their thinking, an Iranian serving in the American military, and they find that to be contrary to their laws.
Think about how many of folks that would fall under that classification.
Yeah, and even under Iranian law, serving anyone with with an American and Iranian citizenship, dual citizenship, can still serve in another military. So even the facts of that conviction don't necessarily follow the logic of their law.
Now, let me ask, has he been able to receive visitors, be it family, be it friends, be it from the American government, Swiss government, any government?
A few visitors, family, because there still is family in Iran. His mother did travel once to Iran to see him and was able to see him.
They let her see him.
Right.
Okay.
And now he's had, just in the last year or so, several months anyway, occasional telephone calls, very short calls, but calls. So, I mean, there has been some progress. It's hard to think of it as progress when I realize that, this is a 31-year-old American citizen,
Does he
former
even speak
Marine.
Farsi?
Well, I'm sure he does now.
He does now.
4 years in Evin prison. He's a smart kid, and he's been able to adapt.
Throughout the years, there have been instances where people of tremendous stature have gone to nations to try to take out the imprisoned. It could be a member of Congress. It could be a former president. It could be a civil rights leader. What about that approach?
Well, we've pursued virtually every approach. The difficulty we have with Iran is that the overarching dynamic right now is the Iran nuclear negotiations.
And let's talk about that. Because
so that has sort of taken up all the oxygen in the conversation. And it's created a bit of a difficulty in this sense. We want to use the moment that occurs, where the world is watching Iran, and the U.S., for the first time in 35 years, has an opportunity for bilateral engagement. So there's discussion between Iran and the U.S. that never took place until the fall of 2013. But that's a positive, but we cannot allow his freedom to be exchanged for some concession that would make the world a less safe place. Amir himself has said, don't trade me for something that will make the world less safe. And if we exchanged him for some concession regarding their military nuclear capability, that's a step that makes the world less safe.
And how humble of him and how selfless of him.
He's a patriot.
To make that statement. It does get trickier because, as you know, some of your friends on the Republican side of the aisle have been reticent to support these negotiations. And so there's legislation now that requires Congress to be involved in the ultimate conclusion of the negotiations. I mean, can it be a line item in the negotiation? You will free.
Yeah, that would be
Amir?
the difficulty. It would need to be. It would have been preferable that it had been a prerequisite to negotiation, so that the negotiating table itself would not include an exchange of considerations, one of which would be the freedom of Amir, and there are 3 other Americans that are one of which we don't know much about, but the other 2 that we know are being held there, a Washington Post journalist and a Christian pastor.
And are they being held through the government or through militia?
Through the government. Yeah.
What can we do, sir? What can you and I, what can Americans, Michiganders, what can we do?
There is actually a way people can help. What we know in our interactions, and some of them I can't describe in detail because of the sensitivity, but we know Iran pays attention to American media, and especially social media.
So let's start tweeting.
We've launched
Is it Free Amir?
Free Amir Now. Hashtag Free Amir Now.
Thank you.
That's how we do it.
His name is Gean Kildee. He is a member of the U.S. Congress from the great state of Michigan. My name is Brad Pomerance. This is Charter Local Edition.